Welcome, everyone, to the August 4th edition of Signals from Mars. I'm your host, Victor. We have Jeremy joining me from the UK. We have Brad joining me from Utah. And how are you fellas doing tonight?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, doing great. It's a lot earlier here, so
Yeah, well, 11 p.m. for me, 10 p.m. for Jeremy, and it's 3 for you. Yeah, it's 8-hour difference.
it's Yarg daylight time.
So yeah, yard daylight time. You know, it was funny. I was gonna ready 2 sound bites today, but I didn't get around to it just with everything else going on. A few weeks ago, when I was watching the young ones with my kids, Alexi Sale came out and kept saying Jeremy over and over again. So I was like, I need to make that into a clip.
Oh,
And
totally.
and the other one was Doro saying all we are, but instead I'll just give you this one, Brad.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There you go. So this is an hour one show where we have our music discussions. We have Jose in the chat. Welcome back, sir. Hope you and the family are well. Pictures from New York look pretty cool. I don't know if you were there with your son as well, but pictures I saw of his were neat. Anyway, so I'm not going to take too much credit for this because Jeremy and I go back and forth throughout the week, just sending messages back and forth. And Jeremy said, "Hey, here's some topics that we can talk about in the future." And I said, "Awesome. We got topics ready for this Friday if things work out this way." So we had a plan A and a plan B. So one of the plans worked. So, and it is interesting because your first point, I guess, kind of changed in the last 2 days because of some news that we heard. So the original point was about Nico McBrain. And because we had Johan, who we're trying to get him to do a remote call in tonight to see if we get happy Johan, but I don't know if we'll be lucky with that. But so Johan even told us that at Sweden Rock, something was up with Nico. And I mean, we've all been seeing footage from the beginning of this year, and things looked kind of off. So the item in question was, is Nico ready to retire? Should he retire? And what does it mean for Maiden? Now, in all fairness, before anyone jumps to conclusions who's listening to this, none of us knew that there were health issues with Nico. We didn't really know until Wednesday that something was up. And then yesterday, they came out and said that he had a stroke. And of course, that changes a lot of things. But at the same time, it kind of still doesn't change the question, though. Because how does this... He says that he's been playing at 70%. He's closer to 100%. But is this a recurring health issue that he's going to have? Obviously, with the money that he has and the band has, they're going to run him through a battery of tests, and he's probably going to have some of the best doctors in the world look at him. So what does it mean for Maiden, and what does it mean for Nico? Brad, you're the closest thing to a doctor that we have here. You obviously are Dr. Poison, but with regards to Nico having a stroke, I mean, this is like a remarkable bounce back. And at the same time, I want to ask you guys this as well. Was it the smart thing to do for the band to continue to play with him, or just say, hey, Nico is sick, and have someone else step in for a few months and then bring Nico back once he's at 100%? Wouldn't be the first band to do something like that. So, Brad, what do you think this means for Maiden and for Nico?
That's a great question, by the way. Here's the thing. I mean, strokes are not equilateral across the board. In other words, it's not, we could all have a stroke tonight, hopefully not. And we could have 3 different outcomes.
Right.
or maybe 4 different outcomes, just assuming that somebody pops in right here. So, I mean, let's talk history here for a second. Nigel Glockler, Saxon, he had a stroke. He had a significant stroke. I mean, was paralyzed for a while. Jeremy, do you remember how long ago that was that happened?
Oh, quite a while now, I think. Can't remember exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, looking at him in the hospital and he did not look good. You thought, oh, he's done. He's totally done. He rehabbed incredibly well. And I don't know how long it took him to get back on the drum stool, but it took a while. And I've seen him several times since his stroke, and he is 100%. I mean, the guy plays, he'd play rings around most people. So it all depends on with Nico how well he rehabs and how he gets back his being able to play, his skills, his mobility. So if he can get it back and he wants to keep playing, I think he should play if he can play. But yeah, obviously, if he's not getting it done, then that's a tough. I kind of liken this to well, Victor, your parents are still around. When they get to the point where maybe you got to think about taking the car keys away,
right?
And that's a tough one, man. So I wish everybody luck when you come to that with your parents, trying to get them to stop driving. And I think it'd be the same thing with Nico, trying to get him to stop drumming, because that's what he does. You take that away from him, that could really damage him. But if it has to be done, it has to be done. And he has to. I'd like to think that he would say, "Hey, lads, I'm keeping you back, and you need to move on without me if you're going to move on." And I think that's one of the questions here, right?
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, your thoughts?
Jeremy, go ahead.
It's slow on it's rolling through quite slowly, so I'm kind of just getting. Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. You sound great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. No, we were just having a little bit of a connection issue for a second, but I think we're okay now. But yeah, I mean, I saw Iron Maiden obviously just recently in Manchester, and it was quite obvious that his playing was, below par. There was something up and there was something not quite right about it. And I just thought, well, is he just because he's old? I mean, he's 71 years old. So, I just worried a little bit that there was a, problem age related. But now we know that, he actually had an illness at the time and he'd had a stroke, and obviously he was having difficulty in actually drumming, actually using his arms. So, but it's quite obvious. And I think the band also, the way they had the backdrop, I don't know whether they planned the backdrop before, but it was a bit weird because it was kind of like he was on his own in this sort of little square at the back. And it was almost as if they tried to hide him away. So you couldn't really see him too well. So that was a little bit weird. It was like a cutaway at the back where he was sort of sitting rather than right amongst the band. So that was, a bit interesting. But I think the answer to the question is, obviously a lot of these players now are getting quite old, and so they've got to decide themselves. Are they still being useful really in the band? Because a band like Maiden is quite high intensity, really, isn't it? You need to be on the ball to play that sort of stuff. You can't play it at sort of a slower speed, really. You need to be playing it at the speed it was played, or more or less. And so, at the end of the day, he's the oldest member of the band, isn't he? So, he's the one who's probably going to be suffering first.
He's also doing the most physical work as well. I mean, out of all of them, I mean, outside of Yannick prancing around, Nico's going to have the most physical part of the job. I mean, drummers are the ones that break down first. It's usually the singer or the drummer, the first one that can't do it anymore. So, Nigel Glockler had his stroke 9 years ago. So it's been almost a decade. Let's see. As far as Iron Maiden members are concerned, here's another thing too: is let's say they have to replace Nico all of a sudden. Who do you bring in?
Ooh, wow.
Because that's another one. You can't bring Clive Burr in. He's gone. I know that there are a million guys out there that are great players, but Maiden has never had a double bass drum playing drummer. It would probably be a UK drummer. I would doubt that they would bring an American or a Swedish player. What UK drummer from a hard rock or metal band would they bring in? And he'd probably have to be a single bass drum playing drummer, one of these things where he would have to keep up with the aesthetics or everything that the band is usually known for. Let's see. You would think that they would put their.
So what you're saying is Mike Portnoy is not a candidate.
Mike Portnoy is not a candidate, but
come on, he could do it though. I don't see a problem having a double bass drummer in there. I mean, as long as he shows respect to the songs. I mean, Nico does a lot of fast 1 foot stuff that kind of sounds double kicky at times.
Yeah.
And there's times when I'm like, wow, when did he start playing the double bass? But it's not. It's just he's got a fast right foot. Yeah, Nico's playing to me is very unique, and yeah, it'd be a tough. I'm sure there's somebody out there who could do the job though, because there are so many good drummers. But yeah, there's a big shoes to fill.
Yeah. So wow. So Nico is 71.
Yeah.
Steve Harris is the second oldest at 67. And then Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and Yannick Ayers are all 66. And then Bruce is 64. He's the youngest one out of all of them. So he's 7 years younger than Nico.
Yeah. Again, age is not the same for everybody either.
Right.
Yeah,
well, and it's not the same for a Nico McBrain in Iron Maiden or a Lars Ulrich in Metallica or one of these people in bands that are making a ton of money that can have some of the best healthcare available to them in the world. So that's a different story to, I don't know, John Tempesta in The Cult or, I don't know. And I was trying to think who Lauren Harris's last drummer was, given that Richie Faulkner came out of her band. If there's anyone that played with her that would be able to fill the shoes. Because Bruce has historically worked with American musicians in his solo band. So it's not as if you could say, okay, well, we'll just bring one of these guys along. Also, I don't know, maybe Steve could pull the guy in from British Lion. Who knows?
Yeah, I would imagine that they wouldn't have to try very hard to get some worthy candidates to audition. I think in Maiden, an important part of it is, I mean, really the drumming's got to be number one, but the person's got to be number two. You gotta fit in with that bunch. So
be Thunderstick out of Samson.
Thunderstick.
They already took Bruce.
There you go.
They already took Bruce from Samson.
No, but Thunderstick was already in Maiden at one point in time.
There you go.
Get him back.
Where is but would he have his bedazzled mask that he's been known to wear now? So the various drummers that Maiden has had, they had Ron Rebel Matthews from 75 to 77. Thunderstick, known or real name Barry Perkis from 77 through 78. Doug Sampson, 78 through 79.
Wow.
And right after that, it was Clive Burr to Nico. Interesting. You never hear who else was thought up of to come in when Clive left the band, because Nico at the time was in Trust. He was touring with them. He wasn't an official member of the band. He was just an employee, but he had also played with Pat Travers, I believe.
Yes, that is correct. And neither of those bands are anything like Maiden. I mean,
right.
You know, yeah, but I don't know. Jeremy, you saw him. You saw Iron Maiden. How long ago now?
Oh, it's only a matter of a month ago, isn't it?
So did you feel like his performance really wrecked the show or really brought it down quite a bit? Or
it didn't wreck the show, because obviously Maiden are a great live act, and you know they can all play, but it certainly was noticeable that he wasn't playing well. So that was a big issue for me. The other issue I would also say is I noticed how little Dave Murray and Yannick really contribute much. I mean, obviously they're doing a lot of the rhythm stuff. It's Adrian Smith is doing all the legwork. And almost, he seemed to me to be doing all the stuff really. So that's another issue. I was looking at it from above, first time I'd seen them from the seats. Before I used to be on the ground, standing and watching them. And so you see a little bit differently, don't you, from above, and see, the movements. Dave Murray was there in sort of like his sort of moccasins on, he had some soft shoes on, no trainers, so he's kind of like he just come off the golf course and he's just playing along, and how he is, he's quite laid back, very smiley. And just got the impression that they're just clocking on a bit. That it's just one of those where they are. What can you do? They're a certain age, and they're not going to get any younger. And they're just not quite on. They're not quite at it as they were the previous time I saw them, and the previous time before that. So each time I see them, there's something not quite right, and it's getting very, very slightly worse, just slightly. But of course, most Maiden fans will just talk me down and say, "Oh no, they were magnificent. What are you talking about? They're the greatest live band ever," and they are. They're fantastic. I'm not going to say they're not great, but you can just notice that age is kicking in. That's all.
So I'm trying to think how long ago it was I saw them here in the Senjutsu or Stuojutsu tour, and I don't know, was that last summer I saw them? But they were great. They were so much better than they were on the Book of Souls tour. I saw them before that. I mean, most of it was the set list, but they were firing on all cylinders. I mean, all guitar players were playing their normal parts. Nico was great. I mean, Bruce was great. The sound, for once, the sound was really good. It was just fantastic. So, I mean, that wasn't that long ago. It was within the last year. Yeah.
It could have been the song choices, of course, as well, because on this tour, they're playing quite a few of the new songs, and they're playing a lot of the stuff off Somewhere in Time, and they're playing a lot of the longer songs. So it can be that, and who knows? They're on a long tour. They might have played absolutely out of their skin the previous night, and then they get to Manchester, and who knows? They might be tired. Who knows? Men in their 60s, and as we said, 71, they're going to get tired, aren't they? Some nights.
I'm tired right now.
There you go.
So I almost just did a first for the show. I almost killed a fly on the air, and it's still the fly's pushing. He's pushing it, so we could still yet see a fly bite it.
I have my fly killer right here. Wait, right there. You can see her.
Yeah.
She's resting right now, but that dog can kill flies. Let me tell you. Eats a lot of grasshoppers too.
Oh wow, Johan, we can't see you. Oh, there we go. There's Johan.
There we go.
How are you tonight, Johan?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry for being so really late, but
It's
I had
fine.
some. I can explain that later. But when you send a link on Messenger, it's hard for me to transfer it to my
Okay.
PC. So I'm not a computer expert, as you can see. Sorry.
You can just open Facebook on your computer, and then
No. This is my politician computer. So no,
okay.
I
So
won't
no,
do
you
that.
cannot. Okay,
No,
gotcha.
no.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
All right. Real quickly, because we were wrapping this topic up, but Johan, if Maiden was to replace Nico, who would they replace him with?
Oh, any drummer that's good. And I mean, Nico is good, but I mean, it would be funny if we replaced him with some, young, unknown, very talented young guy or girl. That would be great.
When you say young guy, and I mean this guy's obviously known, I would if they were able to swing a trade with Sepultura and bring in Eloy, their drummer, who's just a ridiculous player, was playing with a broken leg not that long ago. Broke his leg riding a bike, had his leg operated on, took I think 2 weeks off, and started playing again after that, doing shows. So
That's crazy.
all right. So and Johan, your answer's very similar to what Brad and Jeremy said.
Aha. Okay.
There's
Good.
a lot of drummers out there, and I'm sure that that they'd be able to fill that spot. The name that jumped to mind real quickly, and I'll say this before we move on, just because I've seen him play Loss for Words, or however you want to say it. I've seen Dave Lombardo play that song with an Iron Maiden tribute band. And instantly that popped into my head. But I was like, yeah, but Lombardo's in too many projects as is. So he'd be able to do it. But I don't know if he'd be able to do his 17 other projects. All right. So the next thing that, once again, I'm crediting Jeremy for this. RCD is going to make a comeback. And what do we prefer, vinyl, CD, or digital downloads? Jeremy, your question, you go first.
Yeah, I had Brad in mind on this because I know he's a CD collector. But I, partly prompted by the fact that I just bought a new CD player for myself, and I read the spiel that came with it, and it was saying that CDs were making a comeback, and I think they were just sort of, trying to make you buy the player. But I think, yeah, probably CDs will come back eventually, and I think, I've started to play mine more again. There we go. I knew Brad would have a huge collection coming out here. He'll probably be buying one on air as we speak. But if I had a preference, I don't know, because I think I play all three. I mean, I play vinyl when I'm working because I've got a record player that sits behind me. I listen to digital in bed because that's obviously the easiest thing to do if you're climbing into bed and you just want to listen to something before you go to sleep. And I listen to CDs in the lounge when I'm just sort of relaxing a bit. And I try to put on a whole CD. I don't manage it because I often get interrupted. But at least I'm trying to listen to them again there. And obviously in the car still, because I've got a CD player in the car still. So I'm listening to all three, and I like all three in their own way. So, I couldn't pick. But if you're saying for sound, again, CDs I think have a great sound, but I do like that richness that you get from a vinyl.
Yeah, Jeremy, you just came up with the name of my next album, Digital in Bed.
There we go.
Brad, I think this is. I think we know where Brad's answer is going with this. He's pulling out vinyl, vinyl. He's pulling out CD copy of Volume 4. Is what I was.
Yeah, saying. This is the black box right here. I'm packing up all my CDs for the move. So, but this one, I just bought this 2 weeks ago, so I'm still buying CDs. This is Mats Carlson, Mood Elevator. This will be a bit of a commercial. I'm going to recommend everybody buys this. This is an unbelievably good album. So enough of that. So I bought the CD.
Great.
But here's the thing. In my current house, I really don't have a great place to listen to CDs. The new house, I'm going to set up a room especially 2-1 CD. It's going to be a music room for listening to music.
I feel a turntable coming on.
It can't be that far behind. Now, of course, I got rid of all my vinyl in the last move. So
come on, join the club like the rest of us. You know,
I'll start buying over.
Start rebuying everything you got rid of.
Sure, why not? Yeah, but I love vinyl. I wish I still had that as an option. And who knows? You're right. Once I go the complete stereo route, and with the room that I'll have, maybe I will buy a turntable. We'll see.
So right now, what would your preference be? CD or digital?
CD sounds really good, and I prefer that for if I'm really going to listen to something. But I buy mostly digital now, just because I can listen to it. My car doesn't have a CD player,
right? So
I can't listen to stuff in the car on CD, and I don't really have a good setup for listening to CDs here at the house. So I'm gonna have to get that sorted out. So
Rod's gonna have to remedy that.
Yes, I will. Yeah, and I listen to most things now with earbuds, headphones, and that, and so that kind of goes to the download, or I take the CD and convert it to a MP3 and listen to it that way. But I'd much prefer go straight CD for the better sound.
Gotcha. Okay, Johan, how about you? What do you prefer? Vinyl, CD, or digital?
I prefer vinyl, but I listen to 95% to from Apple Music. But if I'm home and I like to listen to music, the whole room and the whole perhaps a party or so, always vinyl. But I'm lazy. I like Apple Music. Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
there's
the convenience of that is incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
And
be sitting there in the car and go, "Hey Siri, I want to hear this song," and boom, there it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing.
The only thing I would say. Yeah, the only thing I would say is that it's sometimes a bit more tricky to think what you want to play. Whereas if you've got all your CDs in front of you and you see them and you know they're in alphabetical order, you kind of pick one out and you pick it out and you see the artwork with it and you see the tracks that are on it, and then you think, yeah, that's what I want to play. But I find it trickier to do that digitally. And of course, there's the two things digitally as well. There's whether you pay for it or whether you have it a free account as well. And so whether you can actually save it onto your hard drive, because I don't pay for it because I buy vinyl and CDs. So
right.
Yeah,
that's a very interesting point that Brad basically brought up. Convenience. I would say that at night or while I'm working here, I usually I do it digitally, and I do have all the vinyl behind me. I mean, all my vinyl is behind me, and outside of the clutter, there's everything there. I mean, there's CDs behind me as well, but most of the CDs are in the next room, and the decent setup is in the next room. So just to not have to go back and forth and whatnot, I usually listen to digital more. But if I see something that's really cool on CD or on vinyl, whichever of the two I can afford is what it comes down to, because we all know that vinyl is expensive. But I mean, for example, behind me, I have, Overkill. This is CD, So this was something cool that I wanted because it had a bonus DVD with it. So that's why I got it on CD. With I have the Armored Saint DVD back there, Blu-ray and CD, but I also got that on vinyl because the vinyl was really cool. So I was like, okay, at that time I could afford both. So I got both, more so because I wanted the Blu-ray of that. But it, again, for me, it's hard to beat the convenience of digital. And a lot of nights I'll be here, I'll be working on various things. The fly is getting closer to getting swatted again. But I'll sit here and Jeremy, for me, I have just, let's see, let me share this screen. Where's entire screen? Okay, here we go. So I have my Apple Music here. Isn't showing. Oh, there we go. Okay. But a lot of nights what I'll do is I'll sit here and I'll go, oh, okay. I'll go to a band that starts with an A and I'll just, play a song from one of these bands' playlists. Go down to B, do the same thing. Go down to, all the way down the alphabet. And then by the time I work my way all the way down to Z, I'm like, all right, it's time to sleep. So, but at the end of the day, hey, whatever works. If having the CDs in front of you and being able to pull out one that you really want to check out from your list, I mean, whatever works, as long as it's enjoyable.
They're all next to me here.
See that? So wait. All right, so there you go. Except, Johan, do you have any CDs around you that you can show us? CDs or vinyl?
No, I'm in the kitchen.
Okay.
So no. they're in the basement, but
all right. No, it's fine. Okay.
I have.
All right, cool. Anyway, so let's move on to the next subject here. This was sparked by a few weeks ago. I mentioned how I had purchased some $3 t-shirts or €3 t-shirts from an ad on Facebook and found out that it was essentially it was a scam. So folks, if it's too good to be true, it really is. So if you see $3 t-shirts, if you see $10 NBA jerseys, $30 sneakers, they're probably ripping you off. So I was lucky enough to get my money back from the bank. Nice. But so Jeremy's question here is, can you wear a band t-shirt for fashion reasons only? And I'll mention this real quickly. At basketball camp this summer, there was the mother of two twins that were playing. I'm like, wait a second. She's wearing a Def Leppard High and Dry t-shirt. And so I said to her, I said, wow, that's one of my favorite albums of all time. And she says, and it's very fashionable as well. And at that moment, I thought, has she ever heard High and Dry, or she just picked this up because it was at a store? And I had seen the design on this specific site where they offered all these shirts, but at the local mall, various shops like Hit and Miss. I'm trying to think. There's another one called Stradivarius. I don't know if that's anywhere else in Europe or not, or if it's just here in Spain. And there was another store, and they all had Def Leppard t-shirts from different eras of the band. One had High and Dry, one had Hysteria, and the other one, I believe, had Pyromania. There were Ramones t-shirts. There was I forget what else. There was more hard rock metal type stuff. So, in your opinion, guys, can you wear band t-shirts for fashion reasons only? Johan?
Yes, you can. Because the artwork of our favorite bands are, as we all know, most often very good. So, of course, yes,
Okay,
I love them.
cool.
I don't care if you are Kim Kardashian and wear a Slayer T-shirt. It's good. Why not?
Well,
It's good artwork.
I know when that happened, Gary Holt came out and complained about it, and at the same time, Dino from Fear Factory came out and said, "Please wear my T-shirt," because he basically said, when some of these people are wearing it for
Yeah.
fashion reasons, it just makes sure that their merch sells. It's free advertisement on a very large scale. So, uh, if in my opinion, if it gets the word out to people and it helps support a band or it helps turn somebody onto their music, why not? Brad, what do you think?
Well, I have to agree with Johan because he's always right. But I do agree with it. I mean, it's anything that promotes the music we love is a good thing.
Right.
But part of me doesn't dig it at all. It's like, what the hell's wrong? It's like, if you're going to wear the shirt, listen to the band. Okay, get on board. Don't just be a fake fan. Be a real fan. So I'm not saying they should take the shirt off. I'm just saying they need to. Well, it depends on who's wearing it. Just they need to back up their shirt, man. Let's listen to the music.
Oh,
But I say that about people who are fans of the band. I mean, I can go back to that time when I was in St. Louis seeing Saxon. Let's see, the new album is out. I wish I could remember which one it was. It was probably let's see, it was when they were on that tour with the Black Star Riders. And so anyway, I'm standing there at the front of the stage with all these guys, old dudes, the Mark Striegel crowd, the fat bald guys. And they're talking about, oh man, when I saw Saxon in '85, whatever. And I was like, so I kind of had to jump in the fray a little bit. And I said, so what do you guys think about the new album? Oh, I haven't heard it yet. Like, what do you mean you haven't heard it yet? What was the last Saxon album you bought? Oh, Power and the Glory. It's like, okay, you call yourself a fan, and it's a good thing that you're here, and it's a good thing that you bought the albums back then. But why are you not buying these albums now?
well,
I don't understand it. I don't understand why people who are fans of a band aren't supporting them. This is, I know I just hijacked the question there. I'm sorry.
Lazy listeners. I will always remember the guy that said, wow, Dokken is on tour. Their last album was so great. I rocked out to that when it came out. Back for the Attack was so awesome. It's like, wait a second. Back for the Attack was like 89, 90. Where have you been for the 15 subsequent albums after that? Oh, they've put out 15 albums since? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it was the question was partly motivated by your purchases and also partly motivated by the fact that a wife of a friend, I sort of saw the two of them one lunchtime. I was walking past and she was wearing a Van Halen shirt. So I stopped for a little chat and I said, oh, I like your t-shirt. She goes, oh, yeah, I just wear it. It's fashionable. I like it. So she wasn't really a Van Halen fan. But then I sort of thought to myself, I got the sort of, the bad vibes about that. And I was put back into my old mindset when I was a teenager, thinking, I hate these people who wear t-shirts who don't like the bands. They should have been to the concert. They should have been to the show, or they should at least know every single album that this bands have produced, or at least chat about the band, But then I was thinking, well, wait a minute. She's been walking around all morning in this t-shirt, and there'll be other people who will spot it like me, and there'll be one or two who will say, oh, Van Halen, I haven't heard them for a while. I'll go back and stick on Jump, or I'll stick on whatever,
Right.
And there'll be one or two people who'll say, Van Halen who? I've never heard of them, but hey, I might go back and put them on and try them out. So, there is that. It's free marketing for heavy metal, for classic rock. And it doesn't matter what band it is. It might be the most famous band, but it might turn them into something else. They might suddenly get into that band. Johan, it might be a Rush t-shirt, and you might have another fan on your hands there. So, I'm pretty easy about it. I'd rather have people wearing and knowing about rock music than saying it's complete crap.
Agreed.
I think it's probably just a matter of time, because Rush t-shirts are, as you know, the most. They have made some really, really nice covers of their albums. So probably Rush t-shirts would be, next summer, probably Rush t-shirts everywhere. So you know what I mean.
Yeah, they sell them in HMV here in the UK, and you can easily get a Rush shirt. The old sort of the old-fashioned Rush that was on, I think, the first album or whatever. There's that one, and then you've got the moving pictures type one on a shirt. You can get that. Yeah.
2112, the next fashion style.
Of course.
Yeah, your statement also, Jeremy. The fly bid, first fly ever gone on a podcast, on my podcast anyway. Jesus, they've been relentless. I think I've killed 30 today. So anyway, plenty of manure in the fields, folks. When you brought that up, Jeremy, just reminded me of Margot Robbie talking about listening to Metallica and Slipknot, and Kate Blanchett saying, "Oh, I thought for most people that's just a phase." So,
Yeah,
idiot. All right, next point. Who would you pay to do a meet and greet plus sound check? Now, these meet and greets and sound check for most bands that are doing them cost in the thousands. They're not cheap. A band like Kiss is charging like $1,500 and up to see them sound check or to meet them and all this stuff. So, is there a band that you would pay to meet and greet and do the sound check? Brad, anyone for you?
no, because I'm part Scottish, and so I'm a cheap bastard. And I have a hard enough time paying for the concert ticket itself,
Right?
At the prices that they're asking for a lot of these things. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to be able to meet a lot of guys, a lot of bands, and for the most part, they're really cool people. But to pay for it, it just seems, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, and I understand why bands are doing it. They really need, they're not making money like they used to, and so they, if people will pay it, why not? I totally support them doing it. And but yeah, I can't think of anybody that I'd pay money to meet. Sorry.
You paid money to meet me.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'd pay money to meet everybody on this dais right here. I would. Yeah, that was. Yeah.
So you need to retract your statement. You would, in fact, pay money to meet somebody, but you wouldn't pay money to meet a band.
I figure I'm paying for the concert ticket. That's me paying to see them. They don't care about me. If they did, then, hey, I'm right here.
Johan, how about you? Would you pay to do a meet and greet?
No, I agree with Brad with all that he said, but I would really love to buy Geddy Lee for dinner and some great wines. So that's a kind of a meet and greet, because I would really like to sit down and talk with him for an hour, but that's not the meet and greet. But my point of view is Brad's, but yeah, I could pay for the food and the wine for a dinner with Geddy Lee. Yeah.
You know what? And I got to agree with Johan. I would do that too. If there was, a band that I really like, I saw one of the guys hanging around out behind the venue or whatever, and be like, hey, you guys had dinner? And the answer is no. It's like, let me treat you to dinner. I would take guys out to dinner, because again, I know what it's like on the road. And I open my house to people too. It's like, yeah, you want to stay in my house rather than a hotel? It won't cost you anything, and you might have fun here. We can play pool. The pool outside is open. Yeah, there's a lot of cool. I mean, and Johan, I would love nothing more for you to hang out with Geddy Lee, and I think it would be the coolest thing ever. I would actually pay for that to happen. Okay. I would pay for.
Well, thank you.
I would pay for Geddy Lee to hang out with Johan, and I would be happy to be a fly on the wall kind of a thing. I don't need to be part of it. That would be cool.
Johan, would you cook for Geddy Lee, or would you take? Or would you take?
Of course, he would.
To eat?
Yes, I would. I'm confident in my cooking. So yeah.
What would you cook for Geddy Lee?
That is a great question.
I guess something kind of Swedish, but Swedish, but
kind of
something
Swedish.
that I can combine with, but with some good French wine. Yeah, Geddy is, he likes wine, and he's good in wine. So
French.
Probably I would have to have him to choose the wine.
Gotcha. All right.
You need to know if he's vegetarian though or not. I don't know whether he is.
I don't think so.
No,
he's not.
Geddy's
no, he's not. Okay.
He's gonna eat a steak with you.
He's gonna eat a moose.
Yeah.
Reindeer.
A moose followed by a moose.
We have other animals here in Sweden.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you proposed the question. Is there any band that you would pay for to see the meet and greet sound check?
Yeah, so I have to admit, I've nearly done 2 of these, nearly, and I'll tell you the stories. So one of them was a sort of almost a charity type meet and greet. It was with Thunder, but it was down in London, and I couldn't get down there. It wasn't too expensive, and it was a curry, so it was like a curry meal. I don't know how it all went because I don't know anything about it afterwards, but nearly went on that because I thought it'd be a good chance to meet the band. And the other one that I've nearly done, and I really regret it now because the prices now have ballooned, obviously, but at the time I think it was only a couple of £100. It was before COVID, was to do one with Michael Schenker in Manchester, and I really regret that. And one of the reasons I didn't pull the trigger on it was because it didn't include the ticket for the concert, and I thought, you got to pay extra for the ticket. I felt a little bit they should have given you got you in for that as well. But you could have gone to the sound check. They said you could take any amount of albums and get them signed, so you're going to spend a bit of time. You could have a picture with him, and I just feel, what Schenker's like, he talks and talks and talks, so I'll be with him for a good 25 minutes because he just never stops. So that would have been great because he's a character, isn't he? So didn't do it, but the answer to your question is I wouldn't do it now because I think the prices have gone up, shooting up. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But Brad said the right reason for it is because they need to make money out of it. They're not making money from the records and even the merchandising. They're having to give away a lot of the sales price, they're at the concerts. So, I suppose they feel like they have to do it.
All right. So for Jeremy.
Yeah, speaking of cooking, I have a true story about cooking.
Okay, go ahead.
when Dio played, when Ron James Dio played here in my hometown in 1997 or 98, I cooked for the band, and it was before the show. And I went out, we had drinks. And then when the Dio came to me and said, "Hey, the band would like some food after the show," or Ronnie especially. And I was, okay. So I had to go back into the kitchen, and I remember I fried some chicken to him, chicken legs, and I was not sober when I did that, but and I went by, and
Is that how you get drunken noodle?
yeah, but wait, and it was yeah, and then she came to me and said after the show and after it was closed, "Thank you so much for the food." And Ronnie was very grateful, and he would like to say hi. So because I cooked those chicken for him, I get to spend 10 minutes with Ron James Dio. I have said it before, but I can say it every night. So I met Ron James Dio because of my cooking. So that was a good evening here in Ljungby. Yeah.
That's a great story.
And I spent 10 minutes with him and spoke with him.
And supposedly, if
that true story, yep.
If you ran into him afterwards, he would have remembered your name because he remembered everybody's name supposedly.
He was I mean, I met a lot of rock stars, mostly Swedish, because of my former occupation. But yeah, he was special. He was very what are you saying? He was very personal when you spoke to him.
Right.
He was very. You felt like you spoke to a friend.
Right.
That was very special.
Yeah, and there are a lot of stories of him like that.
So that's yeah. Sorry, just a short story.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Great story.
Yeah, there are a lot of stories of him like that where he would talk to people like that one-on-one, and then he would come back on tour and would say to people, "Hey, how's your father doing?" Or, the last time we spoke, your brother was sick, is he fine now? Or, so he would remember people's names and those types of personal conversations that he had with people. So that was amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But all right, so for my meet and greet, and this is only so that I could take pictures on my phone and send them to Jeremy, meet and greet and sound check would have to be with John Sixx.
Wow.
Just to say, "Hey, Jeremy, I found him.
I found him.
I'm at sound check with John Sixx." So this stuff. Look, I've told a few people this because, and I mentioned this on the Patreon show. I believe. I went shopping recently and about 40 minutes away and realized that everyone was in Iron Maiden t-shirts. And I said, "Why is everyone wearing Iron Maiden t-shirts? Are they playing close to here today?" And I look and I'm like, "Yeah, there's a sold out show tonight about 100 meters that way." Anyway, I haven't been keeping track of shows because I just haven't been able to afford them. And because at this point, with my kids wanting to go to shows, I would have a hard time going by myself and not feeling guilty about taking them. So all of that stuff between shows or meet and greets or anything else, I'm kind of out of the loop. But whenever it comes up on your usual news sites, and they say so and so's charging $4,000 to meet whoever. The one person, and now Johan is going to say, oh, I met him, and I know that Brad has seen him already at the whiskey. The one person that I have the recurring dream of interviewing all the time, and this happens every so many months, is I have these lucid dreams where I'm just sitting down and chatting with Lars Ulrich. So I don't know that I would pay for something like that, but if that were ever to come true, where I could just sit down and have a cool conversation with Lars about music and life in general, I'd be down for that.
We need to make that happen. I don't know how, but we need to make it happen.
For a band that they're going to be simulcasting a show that they're going to be doing in Texas on 2 nights on the 19th and 20th, I believe. So, it's going to be broadcast here in Spain on the 19th and 20th. And tickets are $15 a piece to see them in the theater, which is like double what regular theater tickets cost. And my son was like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, you realize that's double what it costs to see them in the theater? He said, oh, it's not seeing them in person? I go, no, it's seeing them in the theater. Oh, well, we could just see them at home, couldn't we? I said, yeah, pretty much. He said he was rationalizing that 60 euros was cheaper than 300, so we should do it. I said, well, if it was 60 to see them in person, we'd be there, my friend.
So. I kind of think it might be fun to go to the theater, though, especially if it's packed with people and watch a concert, especially if it's live.
I've done it. I did it once. I did it for the Led Zeppelin. What was the name of that live album that they released where they recorded at the O2 in London? For Your Life or something like that it was called.
Celebration? Is it Celebration?
Celebration Day. That's it. Okay. For Your Life is the song that they played that they'd never played live or they hadn't played in however many years. Anyway, it was cool. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've got a decent enough TV and a decent enough sound set up that would it be awesome to see it on a big screen? Yeah. Is it worth $60 plus another 50 for popcorn and everything else? No. So I'll wait till they release it on DVD or you can stream it at home and you can just watch it here. Last point of the night. Oh, and actually, Jose mentioned, I agree with Brad. I paid enough with the concert ticket. If there's a chance encounter, so be it. Agreed.
All right. Thanks, Jose.
Last point of the night. Nikki Sixx has come out and said that there's a band that he's surprised that was not bigger than Kiss. He goes on to say that they had the melodies, they had simple songs, they were a cross between pop and rock and punk and pop and they had their own identities, and that band was the Ramones. Now, I love the Ramones. I've seen the Ramones live. I've listened to the Ramones a ton, and as much as I love them and as much as I think it would be cool to still see them, there's no way in hell that the Ramones should have been bigger than Kiss. Not in my opinion. Johan, do you think the Ramones should have been bigger than Kiss?
Yeah, sure. If I was to decide, but no, they had the they didn't wear the makeup or the big shows, but yeah, I love the Ramones. They are, I know not every song, but 95% of Ramones songs I know, and I played. So it's hard. I love Ramones more than I love Kiss, but it's not. It's hard to compare, isn't it? It's different.
It's
It's different. Kiss is, very big American rock band, but Ramones is almost a European band. Not, but you know what I mean. But it's underground, so it's you can't compare those two. Ramones is one of the most important bands in the rock history, and so is Kiss. So they have to share the throne in the rock of,
and
they are so. Ramones is good, Kiss is not so good, but almost. Yeah, Brad can talk.
Well, even though Johan's always right, I'm going to respectfully disagree with his statement here. I've played a few Ramones songs. Didn't require any rehearsal. I've sung a few Ramones songs. Didn't require any rehearsal. I've seen the Ramones once, and I'm not going to say I was impressed. Okay, I mean it was just 40 minutes of song running into one. There was no breaks at all. They played the songs just all together, and yeah, it was. I mean, they just stood there and played. That was it. I mean, it wasn't shoegaze. They were. I don't know what they were looking at, but they weren't looking at their shoes. But they weren't moving at all. And the songs were, dare I say, a little similar. I've seen Kiss more than a few times, and yeah, it's a whole different animal. I do agree with Johan. You really can't compare them. They're two totally different bands. But as far as the Ramones being bigger, and if you like the Ramones better, I say this, that's totally cool, because we like what we like. As long as you like something. Thing I don't like is people who aren't passionate about anything. It's like, yeah, I don't really, have a favorite band. I just listen to whatever. I don't have a lot of respect for that. Same thing for pizza. If you don't care what's on your pizza, then something's wrong with you. Yeah, put it in the comments here. If you don't care what's on your pizza, I want to know. So I'm going to say that Nikki Sixx is great at just putting out stuff that's worth talking about. Just because, what a dumbass. Okay, go on, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, I definitely like pizza, and I definitely have to have tuna and onion on it. So I do really, really care about pizza. But anyway,
really,
that's off topic. Yeah.
Really, tuna and onion?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There you
I'll
go.
drink that.
The Ramones never really sort of passed me by, really. Obviously, over here in the UK, we had a lot of different influences going on, but they never really sort of struck a chord with me. And I sort of know of them, and I've heard the odd song by them, but never thought of them as a huge act. I think there's a lot of bands out there that have been influential to other bands, haven't there? If you talk to Slash, you'll probably say The Damned or something like that. Have been really influential to him. They like a lot of their punk stuff, or these sort of like Johan was saying, a lot of these bands are underground bands. Lou Reed, be another one, and those sort of acts that are not necessarily massive, and there's probably a reason why they're not massive. They may influence people, but they don't always have the hits. They don't have the stage show, and there's a reason why Kiss are so amazing, because they've got the most amazing stage show that's ever been seen in the history of rock music. Full stop. There's no other band that even touches them for stage show, or has done, from the start. And that's the only reason why they are so famous, with all the costumes and the fire bombs and everything else that goes with it. So it doesn't always have to be the music, and we all like different types of music. So, we all have a favorite type of music, and, I could argue the toss over one of my favorite bands, and you might still think they're not that great.
Agreed, 100%. Honestly, I thought he was going to say something more outlandish. I thought he was going to say, because knowing him, I thought he was going to say the Sweet or Slade or somebody
Oh,
like that,
yeah,
because
yeah,
he's always talking about them. So to hear him say Ramones, I was like, okay, I like Ramones, but I don't see, because I think part of the appeal is what Johan said too, is seeing them in a small club, seeing them on a stage with risers and all that would have probably killed it. I saw them.
See, that's where I saw them. They were warming up for Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh wow, no shit.
Yeah,
What
in the
tour was this?
Long Beach Sports Arena. I don't know what tour this was, but I mean, people were actually buying drinks to throw at them. But I now I realize that's probably the punk thing, right? I mean, because
Right.
it's like they would be happy if you spit on them, happy if you throw stuff at them. Yeah, I don't know, but you're right. Maybe that's why that didn't connect with me, is that them doing their shtick on a big stage in a big arena just didn't come over at all. And in a small club, it might have been significantly better. So that's a good point, Victor.
The thing too, though, I've seen footage of them playing soccer stadiums, where especially in South America and in certain parts of Europe. And I saw them at Lollapalooza, which was their last tour ever, and they couldn't wait to get off stage. I mean, 40 minutes was a lot that day, if anything. They sped through every song, and it was okay. Where's the check? Because they were done in 35 minutes to half an hour, and they played a lot of songs. And by that time, Johnny Ramone had already sold his guitar off to Eddie Vedder, and he had to ask Eddie for the guitar back so that he could do the tour. So, anyway.
Wow. Interesting.
Well, that's my with the Ramones. I mean, in Sweden, after they released Pet Cemetery in '88, perhaps
Somewhere around there, yeah. Brains,
yeah,
yeah.
They played in. I saw them in Stockholm, in front of 10,000 people in an indoor ice hockey arena, and they all were there for the Ramones. Iggy Pop was also on the bill, but he was nowhere near the. I mean, everyone was there for see the Ramones, and that's one of my, stadium, but ice hall concert. It was. I mean, people were crazy for the Ramones, and I mean, in '93 they played in our biggest festival, and they were top of the bill. So perhaps Ramones were huge in Sweden, much more than the rest of Europe or the world. I don't know, but they were huge and fantastic live.
I think you're right in the sense to say that they were probably bigger in Europe than they were in the U.S. Because there was an interview that I did. Oh no, I know what it was. Dan Lorenzo posted a picture on Instagram, which was, I believe, Ramones with one of his bands. It was either Hades or Nonfiction, or I think it was Nonfiction. And they talked about how they had opened up for it was Ramones, Overkill, and whatever band Dan was in at the time. And they were talking about that. And now that you're mentioning this, Johan, I mean, they've always been in Spain. They've always talked about Ramones, at least people that are fans of rock music. In the US, I mean, they still have, Blitzkrieg Bop and I Want to Be Sedated, and those two songs, and Gimme Shock Treatment. Those all get airplay. Blitzkrieg Bop gets played at every single sporting event in the US.
Oh yeah.
So they make a lot of money off of that. Now, Pet Sematary, obviously, the song was played a lot because of, the movie. And I remember around that time they had a video for Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight. So that was played every single Christmas. Whenever there was a Christmas special, you always had that video, or you had that song being played during different shows. So that was a very lean time for them. I mean, they were on TV. They were on like the Morton Downey show. They were or on the Howard Stern show, stuff like that. But it wasn't about the music. It was kind of about them telling stories, or them trying to, on the Morton Downey show. I mean, a good part of it was probably scripted. So it was them like talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll and stuff like that. So, it was them on the lower end of their career. They kind of made a comeback towards the end in the US, but I think a lot of it had to do with bigger bands taking them out. I know that in the US they toured with Type O Negative, and they toured with other bands that felt that they had been influenced by the Ramones. So, unfortunately, band couldn't get along. They broke up probably a few years before they should have, before people started dying off in the band. And it's a shame that really there's only two left, which is CJ and Marky Ramone at this point in time. So,
yep.
Anyway, all right. Well, we're going to be wrapping up the show now. I do appreciate Jeremy for sending all the wonderful questions, Brad and Johan for also being here as well tonight. Johan taking time out of his busy schedule to present us with Happy Johan. And Jose in the chat as well for joining us. Thank anyone who's watching the replay of this or listening to the podcast version. Just remember to go to Signals from Mars for your one-stop shopping place for all things Signals from Mars related, whether it's the video version of the show, the audio version, the social media platforms. And since this great platform now allows me to include links for different Amazon stores, for example, if you purchase from Amazon US, Amazon Canada, Amazon UK, just remember that I am a Amazon affiliate, so I may receive a percentage of the sale. You can also do a PayPal donation or join us on Patreon. And all of a sudden, yeah, this is weird because I'd set up the t-shirts. And it doesn't appear now. Let's see. There we go. Hold on. So I can actually do this. A fashionable Signals from Mars t-shirt.
Ooh.
I have one of those.
A Signals from Mars t-shirt that Johan already has. Actually.
I need one of those.
There's a hoodie.
Ooh.
There's a windbreaker jacket. And there is a bomber jacket. So these are all for sale. You could either scan the QR codes here, or you can actually go to signalsfrommars.com and click on merch and pick one of them up. Awesome, guys. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. And we'll be wrapping things up here. And join us, like I said, on Patreon for $2 a month to keep up with everything that we have going on. And you could be here with one of us maybe next week. On that note, we will see you next time right here on the Signals from Mars live stream, folks. See ya.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.